I think it is important to start with the basic statistics in terms of the number of refugees and asylum seekers in Turkey. And probably all the supervisors have the initial idea about this, but with 4 million refugees and asylum seekers, Turkey hosts the largest number of refugees in the world. And of these 4 million refugees, 3.8 million are Syrians.
Mm.
The largest refugee group in Turkey. Turkey, as a party to Geneva Convention, doesn't grant refugee status to those from non-European countries. And for those escaping violence and persecution in non-European countries, for example, in Middle East, Turkey grants different status. For example, conditional refugee status, meaning that you can have this condition until your process is completed and you are resettled in a third country. So it is like a limbo situation, limbo status. And if you are not eligible for this conditional refugee status, you can have this subsidiary protection status. So actually the meanings, the conditions, or the rights related to these statuses are not clear in our context. The only exception for this status is for Syrian refugees coming to Turkey due to the civil unrest in their country since 2011. Turkey gives a different status to those Syrians. It is called temporary protection status. And this temporary protection status provides rights to access basic services such as education, health services, employment, although it doesn't guarantee in practice, but they can use these public services. And this is just specific to Syrians. So other nationalities cannot have the temporary protection status, but of course there are some strings attached to this status. For example, Syrians need to register in one city, and they need to have the permission even to travel within Turkey. They need to show that they have the travel permission from the Presidency of Migration Management in the city that they are residing in. And unfortunately, they are not allowed to travel internationally because in this case, they have to waive their rights for temporary protection status. So their movements actually are restricted, even though they can access the services. And using these public services is restricted to the city that they are registered in. This is another thing. And also in terms of employment, even though this status allows them to work in the Turkish job market, actually they need to apply for employment permission. So first they need to have the temporary protection visa, then they can apply for the work permission, then they can have the work. So even though on paper it might look okay in terms of providing some access to services, but in practice it is very challenging. If you have a temporary protection status, our government doesn't force you to leave the country. You can stay here until your country is back to the safety security conditions, and there is no forcing process for you to leave the country. It is a good thing, at least like we can provide some safety security for the maybe unforeseeable future. But temporality in the status gives the idea that these individuals will leave the country if their home country goes back to normal. And in the minds of the host community members, like having the temporary protection status also implies the temporality. So this actually leads to tension and the problems related to integration. So if you are temporary here, so why we bother, or you bother yourself to integrate? More than 94% actually live as a urban refugees. So in the first years of the Syrian emergency situation, we had camps in different cities, in satellite cities, but at the moment, just only minority of them live in the camp setting. So they are just living in the cities. I think it is good in the sense that they can try to rebuild their lives because they can actually have access to education, work, and if they have any health-related issues, they can use the health services, etc. But if you are registered in City A, you are not allowed to live in City B, even though City B has many things, maybe more things to offer you in terms of the employment opportunities, other stuff. You are not allowed to do that. But due to this like reallocation in different cities in the beginning of the emergency situation, many families stayed separated. So they need to reapply for the family reunification in one city. And it was really stressful for families to reunite because, as you can imagine, all these legal procedures take so much time.
Yeah.
And with no guarantee at the end that they will have the approval, permission to reunite. So it is challenging, actually.